Greetings. I want to talk to you a little bit about altars today. I made a comment to someone about keeping my altar alive, and they seemed very puzzled by this statement. Your altar is alive? Like, what do you mean your altar is alive? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about. Setting up an altar for whatever your intention is, and then keeping it alive, the importance of that, and what I mean by that. Okay, so I want to be clear. I say it all the time in every video that we do. Your power is within you as a witch. Your power in your intention as a witch. Your power is not in your tools. It's not in your athame. It's not in your pentacle. It's not in your altar stone, whatever. The power is within you. Okay, and the same goes for your altar. Your altar usually represents either, it could represent the elements. You could have elemental representations on there. You could have representative of the god and goddess on there. You can have spells, reworking spells on there. It is your intention that is important. Okay, but I talk to you all the time about sacred space and why it's important to maintain your sacred space. Well, there's no more sacred space truly than in your altar, and that goes for all kinds of altars. And today I'm just going to show you a little example of some of the altars that I'm using right now, but what I do to keep them alive. Okay. Now, if you're new to the witchy business, or maybe even old to the witchy business, you probably spend a lot of time here on YouTube watching people changing altars, setting up altars, moving things around. And maybe you may be wondering, why are they always moving them around? Or building new? Are we building them new all the time? Or what? Why do we change them all the time? Why don't we just set it up and leave it the same? And I think most of us that think that way probably come from a tradition, maybe a Christian tradition, where our altars in the church are pretty much basically the same thing all the time. Or, maybe if you have a very limited space, you just put up your tools, depending on what you're going to do with it, and you leave it. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of my altars are sort of like that, but we'll go into that in a minute. But we're not changing altars all the time just because we feel like it. We're not normally just adding altars or whatever. We are changing them because our intention is changed. That's the key. It's your intention. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that in a minute. Most of us have a desire for the altar to serve us in a certain way, and so we will change it to make sure it reflects the ability to serve us in that way. For instance, we do ritual. Now, I used to do ritual all the time alone. My husband and I, so we had a very small space, and sometimes we would do it in the main altar in this room. Sometimes we would do it in a temporary altar we set up in another room in the living room usually. And another time we would set a temporary altar up outside. That was a temporary altar. And when we get together for group rituals, that's what most group people do. They set up an altar for a ritual. They dress the altar the way, which is their tradition, and with the tools of their tradition. And they gather around the altar, they perform their ritual, and then they take that down. That space is temporary, okay? But now in our homes, it's a little different. Our other permanent altars, permanent doesn't mean it's permanent forever, but permanent for right now. We have spaces that we want to maybe keep over a period of time. In order to keep it over a period of time, we want to do things. We want to tend it to keep it alive, to keep it from working for us in the way we had intended. Okay, I'm going to take you in a minute through my room in here and show you a few spaces and what I do to keep it alive. Okay, but before we can do that, we need to say, what is the purpose of the altar? What is the purpose of the altar? Is the altar to connect with a specific god or goddess? Okay, is it just a space for meditation? Is it a space to hold a sacred space for a ritual, like we said? Is it a place to honor our ancestors, or to bless our pets, or to aid in our healing, or to increase our finances? We have different kind of altars sometimes for different things. Very often that can all happen on one altar. And I think for a long time, I think I did that. But I tend to have little tiny spaces. This room, I will say to you before we get started, is it like something like 11 by 11 or 10 by 11? It's very small. It's a very small room. And I have a lot of stuff packed in here. I have a lot of stuff packed in here. And oh, what a luxury for me to have a room that I can devote all to my tarot practice and my magic practice. But really, it makes sense for us because we have so much stuff. By devoting one room to the stuff, we can keep the stuff pretty much in one room. I mean, we do have some of it spread out in little places. But for the most part, most of our stuff is here in this room. So it just makes sense that we use it here in this room. That's all. But of course, we're empty nesters and we have a home and we can have that. Okay, but this don't be disappointed if you don't have that situation, because it's not, this video is really not about that at all. Okay. So I'm going to show you what I have set up in this room, and I'm going to show you very briefly what the altar, state the purpose of the altar, what kind of things I always keep on it for right now, for my intention that it holds right now, and then what I do to keep it alive and why. Okay. I think I need to be a little more explicit with what I mean by keeping it alive before I continue. If some of you might be familiar with the practice of Feng Shui, where it is a way of placing items in your room or your home or your business to keep energies moving in a positive way and not getting energy stuck in some dark corner somewhere. This is not exactly the same, but it's about the same kind of a principle. We are setting up spaces to be magical. We're setting up spaces to work with the energies around us, the energies of the elements, or the energies of our deities, or just the energies of our own private intentions. The energies, we raise energies, we want to hold a space for those energies to stay as long as that intention is there for the altar. Okay. Now, maybe to make it even clearer, I'm not trying to, I hope I'm not being like insulting by inferring that maybe you don't know what a simple concept like this, but I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear on this. Because it's not a magical altar. The altar is not magical, but my intention that is there, I want to keep it ready anytime I want to use it for that intention. Okay. If you had set up an altar, this is a good way of explaining it. If you want to set up, like we set up our altars for ritual. If I set up an altar for ritual, I dress the altar, I put on my tools, and perform my ritual. When the ritual is over, if I just left that altar sitting like it is, and I thought, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to make myself a peanut butter sandwich, and I move my things over, and I make myself a peanut butter sandwich, or go get a beer and stick it on the table, or whatever. Or maybe I want my computer, I want to look up something computers, I put the computer down on the table and stuff, and somebody comes home and they put a bag of groceries on my ritual table, and you see, that sounds absurd, doesn't it? It sounds absurd. We wouldn't do that, would we? But in the same time, if we've set it up for the purpose of a ritual and we are done with the ritual, we don't mean to hold the intention of the ritual on that table, so we take the ritual table down, put it away. If we are performing a ritual on a space, on a table space, a surface that we use for other things as well, or we wish to just keep it maybe as a shrine for our god and goddess, or whatever we want to do, or to Lakshmi or whatever, or as a healing space, a space of healing, that's perfectly fine. And then you would dress that table for healing. You would keep maybe your incense for healing, and your candles for healing, your oils, whatever, maybe a deity or whoever is your, or maybe special prayers or special intentions that you, or with cards, or lists of people that you place to hold the names of the people that you wish to heal for, however you do it. Then that space is not a ritual space anymore. That's just a healing space. And you're able to hold that intention. And you want to hold that intention for a ritual space. So there's things that we would do to keep that space ready. Anytime I want to add a name to my healing altar, I'm ready to do that. Okay. So I'll show you a little bit what I mean now if I take the little tour. So I'm going to end this part of the video, and I'm going to just take you on a little bit of a tour to show you how I keep some of my little altar spaces alive for when I need them. Okay. Those of you who have been around my channel, this altar has not changed very much in 10 years. A little bit, but not really enough to worry about. This is on the wall in my parlor across from where I am sitting when I do my readings. It's very, very simple. The Wheel of the Year stands above it, and it has a cloth on it. Always has a cloth on it. There's storage underneath. I'll show you underneath. It's just, we keep our drums. Keep drums down there. But other than that, it's just a simple cloth covered above. I don't know if I can show that or not. Covered above. There we go. Covered above. Keeps some extra herbs and things in there. But basically, it is very simply dressed. We change the cloth from time to time, but it has one of 2 or 3 cloths is all we ever change. But always, there's certain things that we always have on here. But I want to tell you, this is what we call, it's our main altar, or we call it our working altar. This altar is at all times alive. In one way or another, it is alive, okay? So I want to tell you how we do that. First, I will tell you what is on it. I always have candles. You see a red and a white candle representing the god and goddess to me in my tradition. They're not always red and white. They're different colors, different times of the year, but basically they're red and white most of the time. I usually, but not always, have a goddess, a representation in figure of a goddess and a god. Not always. Sometimes I have those, but sometimes not. But it always has something to represent both male and female deity, because we are a male and female household. We worship the god and goddess both in our practice. So this is the one altar where we will have a representation of both god and goddess on it. We always have incense. We always have of some kind. As you can see here, the red bowl down on the front on the right has a dry herb incense. This is incense that I make and grow. And behind it, a little cauldron on the back. I will burn that on a disc if I choose. That's usually a special incense for different purposes. Right now I have some incense in a container in the front. Never even put the lid on it. I can do that. Wait a minute. That's better. That's better. The reason I went and put the lid on is that is lit. That's a cone incense that is lit right now. And behind it, you see a little dish. That is where we keep our altar waste. Anything that comes from spell work or from candle work, leavings of candle or incense or whatever, burnt up herbs, whatever, goes in that. Right now it has some ash and it has some stems from some sage bundles that they're just going to go in the fire to add to our offerings. We also have anathema at all times, some kind of an altar stone bearing with the pentacle on it. We have, here I have a container of some wands ready to be used. Also on the upper level, the pink shelves, I have some offerings, some salt, a chalice always, there's some special oil there, a little bell, and that's protection oil actually. I have a wand, a selenite wand behind the blue bottle. The blue bottle is rainwater, which was gifted to me from a friend. Consecrated rainwater that I'm keeping on the altar here. And there's a little purple bag that holds a spell. Also that little green dish in the front of the drawers is offering dish. That is a dish. I find little things that, and I'll talk about that maybe another time, that I collect when I'm ready to go out. I will take something in my pocket or somewhere to, in case I find something I want to bring home, that I find some special stone or something, I will leave something in its place. I will leave an offering. Anytime you take something, you should give back. And then simply you see the tiles in the front. That's a Scrabble board game. Right now it says Mimicry, which is my card for the month from my tarot forecast for 2023. I will show you that later. And that's just to remind me of my word for the month. So you see, it's very, very simply. It always has these things. It always has the candles, always has a representation of the goddess and the god. It always has some kind of incense, some kind of salt, or earth. Sometimes it's earth. Always has a representation of the 4 elements. It always has the altar stone, Avame chalice. Sometimes it has spells that are active. Sometimes it has, also on the pentacle stone, there is a little necklace there, a little pentacle that I wear. I need a new chain, so I put it on there to hold that until I get a chain for it. I will put tarot cards in here, brand new tarot cards, before I have a chance to use them and to charge them. And sometimes there's gifts on here, sometimes there's crystals on here. Those things come and go. Okay, to keep it alive, Right now I have the candles lit because I'm in the room. I will light them. I don't always light these, but I'll light some candles in here of some kind on one of my spaces. I will burn some incense somewhere in some of my spaces. I will move things. I will give offerings. I will, I'm constantly moving things, adding things, taking things, and that is my way of keeping this altar alive. Very, very simple. So it's always here when I have an intention. It is always here when I need something done. If I need to charge something, this altar is ready, waiting for me to do that. If I need to, whatever I need to do. If I want to hold a spell bag somewhere until I find its destination where it's going to go, or until it might just stay here until the spell is cast, and then it will, but it stays here in the meantime. But things might change, according to seasons and what have you. But for our purposes today, it is ready to go for anything I need, any small thing that I need right now. Okay, now I'm going to show you another smaller, even smaller space. Okay, I've just come around the room to the other side. You can see this is the door to come in. That's just the door. We were just over here. We were over here. I'm just coming around, and this space is just a little shelf unit on top of another chair. This is another chair like the one I sit in. My ancient chairs. I have two little, while I'm panning, I'm going to go up to the top. A little shout out to my friend Therese. Yay! She made that for me. Okay, but I have these 2 shelves here. This is what I want to talk to you about. I'm going to try to lock this camera in, see if I can maybe get in there and show you. But I have 2 shelves. The shelf on the top is new, a new thing for me. This is my journey with the Ancestor Grimoire. And I am adding things to this shelf. It does not much to look at, but it's very meaningful to me. I've got the decks that I'm using so far in my adventure. I have a goddess figure, Gaia, to represent my connection to the earth, and I'm looking to connect with some of my ancestors who walk the earth in another time, who share magical skills, maybe perhaps with me, and that's why I'm doing it. I have decks on both sides, even the decks I made. I have in the center a doily my grandmother crocheted, and I will get in here and show you if I can. This is just an apple dish that my grandmother had, and this is connection to the sea. And this is a stone, please don't tell anybody, but I stole this from a castle in Scotland where some of my ancestors, I think, came from. And I brought that back with me. We weren't allowed to take it, but I took it. Ugly Americans, yes, I took it. In the center here is a picture of my parents, because my ancestors all come back beyond my parents. I'm not including my husband's parents in this. I have smoky quartz, amethyst, and this is a piece of raw amber, which is really, it's really good for connecting. Here I want to say, these are the supplemental cards I made. I'll show those another time. But these are my father's shoes. These are my actual father's shoes. Or I should say my father's actual shoes that he wore from a baby. He was born in 1922. So those are probably from 100 years old. Probably this year, 1923, he would have been a year old. So those are probably his shoes at that time. Coincidentally, I have my own shoes, which I'll show you another time. My baby shoes. And here is the first ancestor that I'm connecting with. From 11th century Scotland. I'm calling her Alice Beth. I don't, of course, have any way of knowing her name, but so far my readings and my divination methods and meditations, etc., indicate to me that she shares my interest or skill in herbs, using herbs and potions in her magic. So she's probably a farmer. So that's probably very, very pretty common in those days, but to make something from it. And here's the pendulum that I'm using, which is an amethyst pendulum for some of my work. So this, how do I keep this alive? Well, I'm continually adding to my jar. Anytime I have omens, signs, I will complete all of my cards on here as I do them. Whatever inspires me along my journey will go on the card. And to keep it alive, that's my simple way of keeping it alive. Now you'll see down below here, I have an incense burner. If I want to do some special work with the incense, with the ancestors, I will put this up here and light that. Okay, down below here I have, in this shelf, this is my work with the moon and with the goddess, because, you know, I've told you before, I'm a triple goddess. What I wish. I'm a triple Cancer. The moon is my ruling, it's not a planet, but it rules me as if it were a planet in just about every way possible. So I work very closely with the moon, and so this is my dedication to the goddess. Now you will notice that in our altar I just showed you, we have representatives of both the male and female deity. On this one, it is just the goddess energy, and my husband has his own little altar space in here. So he's not slighted, but he has his own. But this is my personal altar space here, right here on this shelf. Well, actually these two. And so for my moon energy, I'm working, of course, with the Queen of the Moon Oracle. For one of my things, I pull cards at the appropriate time of the cycle of the moon. I have oils. I have a goddess figure here that she's relatively new, but I will oil her. I had special oils for her, and I'm going to be adding items to her belt as I see fit. I have stones for my intentions. I have other stones that were given to me as gifts with intention. Some crystals. Here's some storm water for storm moon. My card Mimicry, which I showed you on my main altar, that card that is my card for the month, my word for the month card. Notice I have a crow figure here. And he's wearing a blue ribbon, a really shabby blue ribbon. You might have seen that before around his neck. If you want to look back in some of my past videos, you might know that my website is referenced. There's a story about Bird there, and that is from the story of Bird, my first friend, Bird, that I met. And he actually brought me this ribbon as a gift. Left it on the porch for me. And so it's one of my most prized possessions. This is a feather that belonged to one of my first hens. She's passed, but she was one of my, if any hen was magical, it was she, and etc. So to keep this alive, I have the water, I have oil that I can oil, I can burn incense, Again, here I can light candles here. I could bring I have a little tea light that I only burn tea lights on this candle, on this shelf. As a matter of fact, I should put one up here now to show you. I will not burn it now, but I will tell you that I just use a tea light because we have to be very careful of what we put for flames. And I would only do this when I was in the room. But this, again, I can use it on either shelf. Just light a tea light, and this is far enough away, it's not too bad. It's fine. So anyway, I have that. Also, I have these cards here, which are the Woman Runes. Jessica got me started on these, and I really love this. And this is the card I pulled for the full moon here in February's full moon. Okay, so this is my rune, which is the crowned heart, rune of unconditional love, faith and love, softness, tenderness. That is my rune. So anyway, this is just very, very small, but you see, you don't need to have a lot of room, but you need to tend. You need to tend to it. You need to pick up your crystals, and you need to hold them. You need to pick up your, your cards, move them around. Of course, this is storm water. What am I going to do with it? What am I lighting candles, changing stones, adding crystals, taking them away, dressing things. This is how we keep our space alive. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you, come back to the beginning and show you, so you see where we are in the room. Leaving this space, I go across into the corner. I have this special place. That's where I keep some of my oils up there. And then I have two other little shelves, small shelves here. The one in the middle, I can't really get into there right now, but the one in the middle is what was always my prosperity shelf, our prosperity altar. We have quite a few things in there that we tend to for prosperity. But recently, our prosperity altar has changed a little bit. It is not for just wealth anymore. It is for joy and happiness and giving, not just receiving, but also giving. Our emphasis on giving what we have to others. So that's going to reflect that in the future. And that's how that will stay alive. And then on the bottom, this bottom shelf is pretty much our shelf for our pets, representing dogs, cats, chickens. It has some things for spells for animals and also for protections for animals there. Beneath here is going to be the space for my husband's altar space, but I'm not going to show you that now. That's his business. There's my cupboard. There's Senor Bruja. And we are back to where we began earlier in the week. There's the spell. And as you see, I'm still working on the spell. I have, how many pins left? I have 4 pins left. 4 pins left. So we've done 5 days. 5 days on that spell. So this is my spell table. It's used all the time, but every time I go to use it for a spell, I cleanse the area and lay it out fresh and tend to it. And when it's over, it's removed. Whatever's left from the spell will be removed at the end of the spell. And then I don't need to worry about keeping this space alive. It's not an altar, it's a workspace, which is sacred when I'm doing a spell. Other than that, it's not. Okay, so that's it. That's it for today. I'll just put you up here to say, so Senor Bruja can say goodbye. Thanks for joining us. And we both wish you blessings.